Hi, my name is Linda Pruce. I live in Frederick, Maryland, which is very close to Washington, D.C. in the United States. I'm a mom of two kids, wife, a speech language pathologist, a yoga teacher. But right now, I focus all of my time on the fact that I have multiple sclerosis and trying to figure out everything I can do to live better with it.
So Linda, tell me, first of all, when you came across the New Inner Game, I know you found it online, I think.
Yes.
Do you remember what you felt, what you saw, what you were curious about?
I was trying to figure out the difference between the Annette Benel method and Feldenkrais. And I remembered the Liv video of baby Liv and her learning how to crawl and roll. And I thought, something told me to click on that and find it on YouTube. And I found that, which then led me to you and then led me to your website. And then I started reading it and I thought, okay, Annette Benel method and Feldenkrais. Got it. Okay. I was looking for, do I want Annette Benel or Feldenkrais? And that's how I found your site. And the New Inner Game was advertised and it was starting the next day.
Oh my God.
And I thought, I guess I have to decide right now.
Wow.
It was partly intuition. It was partly I knew the material worked because I had functional integration before. And this idea that maybe I could understand it. But I also could tell from reading about it that you were going to pull in other things that I didn't know anything about, like somatic experiencing. So it felt to me that you had all the tools. What really got me, the fact that I can make payments,
mm-hmm.
and the fact that was a lifetime member,
mm-hmm.
that I could do the course as many times as I wanted.
So you've gone through it once. You were in my last intake. What do you know now about your health in healing that you didn't know back in, say, September before we started?
I didn't understand that I had suffered from trauma. And when I hear the word trauma, I think of war zones and women that have just, experienced really terrible situations that I fortunately have never had to experience.
Yeah.
I've never been stalked or in a really bad car accident or anything like that. So I didn't think I've ever suffered from trauma. And I think that's probably one of the main things I've learned, that the body doesn't care. So the body, trauma is trauma. Whether you face plant in the cafeteria your senior year or you were in a horrific car accident, you're going to react physically the same way.
Definitely.
And the body is storing all of that energy that you didn't get to discharge. And now I'm like, okay, I can start filling in some blanks here. Yeah. And things just started to make sense.
Like you said, you weren't in any massive, you weren't attacked. You were never, I'll say the word raped.
Yeah.
Which many women are. And, lived in a safe country.
Yeah, safe country. But now I realize, that time I fell. That time I passed out and hit my head.
Yes.
That time when I had a really high fever at the age of 3. That time where, I wrecked my bike. Those kinds of things. And now that I realize, every time you do that, your body has to respond. And you need to do some things to get rid of that excess energy and to kind of make yourself feel safe. And that's the tools that you gave all of us, which was really awesome.
What was your favorite, and there might be more than one, but what was the most valuable thing that you learned in the first 12 weeks, because as you said, you can redo it, but what just went ping for you?
I think the orienting, because being a yoga instructor, I'm all about, meditating.
Yeah.
And meditation is great, but you can't meditate when you're driving or when you're fighting with someone or arguing or if you're having a bad day with your kids. Whereas you can always orient. I mean, I'm orienting right now. I'm feeling my feet.
Completely.
Right. Noticing my breath. The next time I teach a yoga class, I will ask them to orient
Yeah.
and not meditate so that they can, compare and contrast it.
How have you, I know that your days are different now than before, as you said in the beginning, but you do still teach, right?
I do. I've been doing a lot of one-on-ones. Because of my MS, I tend to help people that need chair yoga. Um, and so I can teach a class, but right now I feel like I've stumbled on some cool stuff. So I just want to focus on me. And if they need help, I'll go in, but really haven't been seeking it out.
Got it. So I want to further that a little bit more. When you do see people now, how do you observe them differently? Because there might be people watching this that are coaches and healers and teachers of various mind body stuff. How has this helped you work with others?
I give them more options. So I'll say, close your eyes if that's comfortable. It never occurred to me that someone might find that uncomfortable. Orienting, feeling, not just, in yoga, you'll say, feel your sit bones, but you really want to feel everything that's touching the floor. Um, Also, that you don't always want to or need to take a deep breath.
Yes.
That idea that you want to first just notice the breath and not change it. Just, make sure you're breathing, that you're not holding it. But as a yoga person, I automatically take a deep breath. And one time when you and I were working, we came up with something that was upsetting to me.
Yeah.
And you went, now don't breathe through it.
Yes.
Because my default setting was to take this really deep breath. And I think that breath, although it's wonderful, it kind of pushed everything down. I was feeling all this stuff, and you reminded me, like, okay, don't push it away.
Exactly.
Because that's the other thing about the breath, that it's a wonderful thing to control, but sometimes a deep breath just might not be what you need right now. And we tend to, that's all anybody says, take a deep breath, breathe, meditate,
relax.
And sometimes you just need to start with, see where you are and feel it.
What, personally, in your own personal life, what has really shifted? What have you discovered in the last, since last fall for yourself?
I think the main thing was that I've been in a freeze state. I can picture the moment it started because I wanted to leave a situation or speak up, and I didn't. I just kind of sucked it up. And later that day, I had my first and only MS relapse. And then ever since then, it's like everything's gotten just a little bit slower, smaller for the past, say, 3 years.
Yeah.
And this has woken me up. Like, oh, I've been in freeze mode, which means I can reverse it.
Exactly.
And I just thought, well, when you have something like MS, nobody tells you can reverse it. And when you find people that have reversed it, they've all done it in contradictory ways. The vegan person has reversed it, but also the paleo person has reversed it. And then you're like, well, what does that even mean?
What do I choose?
Whereas this I liked. It was like, why don't we just not even think about that kind of stuff? Let's just deal with your nervous system. And that is what my problem is, an inflammatory problem that's autoimmune that affects my nervous system. And the work you're doing is teaching us how keeping the autonomic system healthy and the vagus nerve healthy takes down our inflammation and improves our immune systems. Cool. So it's truly exactly what I need. But I would say the only downside to it is...
Yep, please tell us this.
Now, I wish you had that there was this magic pill that I would just take it and be like, ta-da!
Yeah.
Because the damage has been done and I have to reverse it.
Yeah.
And you gave me the tools, but it will take some time. And that's okay. But I think that people need to understand that. And that's why you give people the lifetime membership, that they can continue to learn. So it is kind of like peeling an onion.
Definitely.
And it's going to take some time because you've had these default settings for so long. and then to all of a sudden switch and shift how you are in the world, it takes practice.
Yep. And I know, we were chatting just before we started to record this. There are some uncomfortable things that occur when you do this deep dive into the nervous system
Yes.
and peel these trauma layers and that freeze and all that. What would you say to someone who's like, oh my God, I don't want to feel uncomfortable stuff? And now that you're on the other side, what would be your two bits around that?
For me, feeling it was really physical things. So, for example, I used to have pain in this arm, pain in the left side of my back, and then it went away. And I thought, great, it went away. Then I started your course, found out I was in freeze mode. You woke me up and gave me the tools to wake myself up, and a lot of these pains came back.
Yep.
And I thought, I thought it was a good thing my pain went away, but really I'm in such freeze that I wasn't even sensing.
Yeah.
Like my sensations had gone away.
Yeah.
When I felt pain, I actually thought it was a good thing. Like, I can feel something new.
Yeah.
That means I'm having a change.
Two things I want to mention. I think it's wonderful, and I want to reiterate this for those watching, that this course isn't to just do and do nothing else. So I like that you are still working with practitioners in your hometown, but this information, from the sounds of it, has given you more foundation to actually make that work deeper.
Yes, because the Hannah, my Feldenkrais practitioner, I'll notice something. She goes, "You are extremely aware, and this helps me a lot because I give her all this feedback." Or like just the other day, I could tell that one part of my rib cage was higher than the other, and she was like, "Thank you." That because she's looking at it by touching and looking, but any information I can give her
internally.
Yes.
Perfect. And then the other thing you just mentioned, if we could go back to being kids and being curious, you have two grown daughters, almost grown.
Yes.
And how has this shifted how you see how you raise them, how you relate with them, and even, when you look back on how you parented, because there might be, again, people watching this who are either parents or soon to be parents. Any comments on that, on how this course has shifted that lens?
I wish I had this information all those years ago. There are times when my kids were crying, I certainly would have been there for them, but I would have let them cry. I wouldn't have tried to stop them from, we do that. Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
They just need to cry.
Yeah.
And then I think of the times where I did do that. I remember being in a new town and I was going through Target and my daughter decided to have a tantrum. And I looked at her and I go, you know what? I don't know anyone in this town. Have a tantrum. Because I was pushing her in the cart. She wasn't going anywhere. And she lost her mind. I thought, scream it out, And then finally she looked at me and she just kind of looked exhausted, like, all right, I'm going to stop. So there were times where I just let them cry it out or have their moment. And I didn't know that I just thought I was kind of being a smart ass. You know what I mean? Like, how it is when you're with a kid in a grocery store, you're just like, oh, whatever. But she obviously needed to get something out. And, as opposed to like, shh, calm down or all that kind of stuff. But I have seen my one daughter had a moment where, because we talk about orienting, and she was having a rough day, and she said, you know what, I need to orient. And she did.
Wow.
And she goes, I think I need to have a cry and I'll be back. And she cried it out and then she came back and then now she was ready to solve the problem.
Got it. Good.
And I wish I could have, and she's going to be going to college soon. So that's great stuff she can take with her. But I wish I would have had this information a lot earlier.
One minor little thing, how would you compare the work that you've learned in the New Inner Game with classic kind of meditation and such? Because there's sometimes questions, how is this different than meditation, etc. How would you answer that question?
For me, meditation was always about shutting off the brain, shutting off the monkey mind, just focusing on the breath. never following an impulse. You just sit there. If you have an itch, don't scratch it. If you have a cough, try to hold it in. Whereas orienting is about noticing where you are in space. You don't close your eyes. You don't. You literally take a moment to notice that you're safe. Meditation, I never think of safety. You're just kind of shutting down and you're kind of going in, but you're not going in with awareness. You're going in and shutting everything off, to shut the mind off. Whereas orienting, feeling your feet, noticing your breath, you are shutting your mind off because you're only thinking about that. You've stopped the monkey chatter by focusing on these other things, looking around, noticing you're safe. So it still gives you the benefit of meditation, but it keeps you in the here and now, and you can do it, wherever you are.
Yeah.
This has made me feel better about my meditation practice, because I think we're all guilty of trying to have a good meditation. Some people are great. They do it every day for an hour or 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas if I can only do 5 minutes, I don't mind, because if I can't meditate, I'll just orient. And it's all good.
They kind of feed off of each other.
Yeah, so it's you kind of bounce in between. You can go in and out of them.
Great. If someone was watching this, and they are, what would you say if they're kind of like, yeah, I still don't know if this is for me. I don't have MS. What would you say to someone who's got maybe some other elements and we don't know what they are?
Well, one thing is, when you sign up, you get to be on a Facebook group that's private. So there's a bunch of people that were extremely supportive and wonderful to get to know. I saw people that were there for emotional things, for anxiety, for depression, for physical problems. Then they would start to say, oh, you could see how it was helping them parent better. They were having a better relationship with their spouse. They had a really big breakthrough at work. So even though that might not all be my experience, I was watching other people make these big gains. And some people were having painful times, but they felt like they had the safe place to explore it.
Yeah.
People were changing jobs. People were diving deeper in their jobs. People were diving deeper in their marriages. People were getting out of their marriages. So I saw lots of things happening, lots of levels.
Cool.
But I think it was priced right. The fact that I could pay it over time, the fact that I can keep doing it over and over. It was just, it was good, really, really good information to have.
Good experiences.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda, so much.
Thank you.
And we will see you in the next round.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.